keeping track of clock time has really helped me to find presence and to not let myself drift into um, delusional or egoic thoughts. A thought like that might be that, I'm just the greatest person, I'm a great sailor, I'm a great whatever it is you want to be. Having that delusional thought, and it's a real comfortable place to rest in. Um, but it's bad. It's a waste of time. I mean, there's more destructive thoughts such as judgmentalism and hatred and stuff like that. Those will really damage you. But even the delusional thoughts, there's so much better things that you could be focusing on than there were so much better things that I could be focusing on than my delusional thoughts. And my delusional thoughts were just a complete waste of time. And then once I realized that, then that's when I found out that keeping track of clock time was a great way to stop me from living in my thoughts, because I want to be in the second, right? And I want to appreciate the second. Like whatever it is that I'm doing, I want to focus on every single. So I don't want no thoughts to come in and to uh, to take me away from the things that are benefiting me, like getting into my inner being, or just focusing on void, nothing. Just completely stopping my thoughts, because once you stop your thoughts like that, your whole life will change. It will. There is a delayed effect before you start seeing it, but then things start becoming mystical, and you'll start, crazy things will start happening. You'll be like, oh, this is not usual, and it won't happen right away. So you have to be aware of the delayed effect. See, for me, I used to think, I like when I first heard about presence or Zen or whatever you want to call it. Um, I I thought, oh, it didn't happen. This is just ridiculous. I am. I'm focusing on the now. Nothing's happening, but it doesn't work like that. It takes practice, and it takes time, and it takes finding out all these stray thoughts that are going through your mind that are hijacking you at a time when you're doing something more beneficial. And I equate this to any type of work that I was doing or anything like that. There was always something more beneficial, and there was always something more timely that I needed to be focused on. And it's like that with presence too. There's always a task that you can do that's going to help you to get closer to not living in your thoughts anymore. Because living in your thoughts, living in your anxieties, and living in your fears and your hatred and your judgmentalism, for me, was just paralyzing. It just hurt me. So that's where that expression comes from, where people say, "Oh, when you hurt other people or you make them feel bad, that you're hurting yourself." Yeah, you are hurting yourself, because sometimes I would feel guilty about saying stupid stuff to people, and that awareness really helped me to listen to the things I was saying when I was talking to people, because the things I was saying to people were me oriented. And I don't think that people want to hear anything that's me oriented. This isn't me oriented. This is just me telling you what my journey has been, and how I lived exclusively in my thoughts, and how it was just not good. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are living in your thoughts. I mean, most people, probably 98% of the people out there, are living in their thoughts, and they just have no idea why they're getting so pissed off all the time. Where the little things in life that used to be fun are no longer fun. I mean, I know people who worked on cars where they enjoyed it. They enjoyed every second of it. Now, you see them 10 years later, 20 years later, when they're turning a wrench or something. It's like, F, 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 F. And it's like they lost the joy, because they were focused, because they got lost in their thoughts about, how how something like this wasn't enjoyable anymore. They should be out in the Bermudas or where the Caribbean, living life and drinking pina coladas. But that's not where happiness is either, because even if you are out in the Caribbean or wherever, the most beautiful place in the world, if you're living in your thoughts, you will never see it. You might think you're seeing it. You might say, "Oh, that's a sunset," but you're not. You're certainly not feeling it. So, being in the now, and I equate that to being in every second. Like several times a day, I will say, uh, "Thank you for this second. Thank you for this second. Thank you for this second," and I will try to stay there as long as I can. I won't keep saying thank you for the second, but that just is a catalyst for me to be thinking about either nothing, void, or thinking about something which is more beneficial, like getting into the inner being behind the eyes, which I like to go to a lot. It's just empty space for me. But when you live in every second, it makes you aware that these thoughts are hijacking your emotions, they're hijacking your moods, and all of a sudden you could be in a good mood, um, and you let a crazy thought about how somebody in the eighth grade one time pushed you and you should kick their ass good. You didn't do it though. Man, if I could go back there and kick their ass good, that would sure be showing them. But it wouldn't be showing them because the good part was that I didn't kick their ass, because that's the kind of thing that makes you stronger. Because when you fortify your ego, you make it stronger, and then you want to live in your thoughts more. So it's a self, one of those snakes that just keeps eating on itself. And the way I found that pulls it, there's many ways. It's like algebra. There's many ways to solve it. But one way that I like to come back to a lot is really being in every second. Thank you for this second. Thank you for this second. And and then I stay there. And then when I become aware of seconds like that, then I become aware of stray thoughts that come in my head, and I'm able to bypass them. And like I said, I'm able to get myself in a better state of being, or I'm able just to get present, or I will really appreciate the little things, like just going and making myself a sandwich, and taking one step in front of the other, going in front of the refrigerator, and thinking, okay, now I'm going to get out, the bread or whatever I'm going to get, or whatever I put on a sandwich, or whatever it is that I'm making. And I'm going to open up the refrigerator. I'm going to grab everything I need as efficiently as possible and put it on the counter space. I'm going to prepare the counter space. See, it's those kind of little things that are really fun, and they help you to focus on the now. And they also have carryover effect, where they help you to be in the present in other stages of your life, because it's just it's a way of being at this point, and it does take point. There is definitely a delayed um, reaction, um, because I remember once hearing that presence. Oh, and I was a little kid. I was very small then, and it was talked about and stuff like that. I said, okay, well, I'll try it. I'll see what all the hype is about. And then I got in the presence. I watched the sunset. I was like, this is the same boring stuff it was yesterday. So, because it doesn't work like that. It's not a one-time thing. It's you when you do it, when you become aware of all your seconds and you appreciate the now, that's when things start happening, and that's when you start getting the rewards. And they're slow at first. It takes time. It took Adiasante 5 years to get there. Um, and right now I consider myself on about the 3 year period where I've really been working really hard every single second to make sure that there's not one single time that I ever live in any of my thoughts. I won't say that it doesn't happen, but I'm getting a lot better at it. And if I get bored, I ask myself, why am I getting bored? There's always something to do. There's always something more beneficial to focus on. I could always get into the mind body space, and it's not boring when you focus on it. It's boring when you have thoughts going through your head that are distracting you from it, and you got to go back to it, and then you go back to the thoughts in your head, and that's when it's not fun. Presence is fun when that's all there is presence. And this brings me to something else, about cord cutting, where I always thought, oh, cord cutting, you don't want to cut the cords on your loved ones and stuff like that. You want to worry about them, but really, you don't want the baggage. You want to be present in every situation. Worry is the opposite of love. It's a weapon that's used to make sure that other people are thinking about you. And I'm not saying I'm not doing it for for nice reasons. They are. They think in their minds that that's love, but it's not. When you worry about somebody, you're keeping them from living their lives, and man, it's just like guilt, all those negative emotions that keep you from being in the now, that are really keeping you from being, well, keeping me, I'll speak for me. They really kept me from being, to really seeing how beautiful everything was and how much fun it could be when you stop living in your thoughts, and you become present, which is living in every second. And yeah, if I say I want to go to the grocery store, before I go to the grocery store, I spend about a good 6 minutes getting in behind the eyes, where I just see this face mask, and it's a darkness behind the epidermis, and that's all I can see. I can't tell what's in the front, and then I just kind of get behind there, and it really takes me to like an autonomous place where I know we're not autonomous, we're all connected, but it takes me into this autonomous place where I am free of any cords, of any baggage or anything like that, where I can really try to discover that I am love. And there's been a few times when I really felt like love, just even walking around the grocery store doing whatever, and it was like, oh, this is the greatest feeling. But it's not always there for me because it's not exactly the way that I grew up. So, not that I grew up in an unloving place, but it was self-inflicted and very competitive. So, so anywho, I get myself into that inner space, and it really helps me to use all my tools. Like, one tool I use is just to let, if customers, if somebody at the register or somebody anywhere, customer service, they, I ask a question and they answer. Like one time I was at a store, and they had all these pop-up things that came on the self-checker, and and you know, I never used the thing before, and some of it was like okay cancel and stuff. What are they saying okay cancel to? That's like a computer pop-up, you know. And I've been done a lot of stuff with computers, and I know when something is getting out of the realm. Like, okay, this isn't just like, do you want to contribute $1 or whatever? But one time this person came up, and they hit the buttons like real hastily, like nah, 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 nah. and and at the time it kind of pissed me off because I had found myself in and this is pretty recently, not real recently, a few months ago, but um, I had found myself getting into a place where I was getting kind of like startled, like that's your job, you do that all the time. When I see okay cancel, what are they saying okay cancel to? It's not the same as, you know, giving $1 or something like that. But anywho, what I do now is I let it just blow through me, like I'm just transparent, and it's just a beautiful opportunity for me to get stronger and for me to get out of my egoic space. So this is the power of living in the now, is that you're always strengthening yourself. You're always expanding. And it's not a one-time thing. It's not like just, oh, I'm just going to be present for this one moment and I'm going to see what it feels like. It's not that way at all. It is a life choice. It's what I heard one time where they said, when you're on the light team, there's no quitting the light team. And I believe that. Once you start the path, you can't really go off of it. Once you start it for a good long time, and if you started it for a good long time, it was because you were forced into it. Believe me. For any type of presence or any type of spirituality you can say was forced upon me. I was in no way a spiritual being at all. I always thought that you know, it was just a joke and stuff like that. You lived life and you did. So I was forced into presence. And believe me, you do not want to be forced into presence. You would rather take it slowly, because when you get forced into presence, then you go through a lot of bad times. And believe me, they're as bad as you can imagine. So anyway, that's just a little bit about one tool that I use that is really helpful to me, and maybe a little bit about the journey I've kind of been on. But I thank you for listening, and you have a great day. Bye.